Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon, the honorable teacher, for this course. Thank you for your coming today in my presentation. Let me introduce myself. My name is Anjlyna Siboro. I am student at University of Bengkulu, especially English Department Student Association. Today, it is good to be here because I would like to present my presentation. The title of my presentation is Teaching Vocabulary Through Short Story. Did you ever heard a technique to teach a new vocabulary in the class? I think you ever heard many technique to teach vocabulary in the class. In this time, I would like to share to you one technique. There is teaching vocabulary through short story. Before that, I would like to tell you the definition of vocabulary. I think everyone have known that the definition of the vocabulary and short story. But I'm happy to share to you the definition of that. Vocabulary is a basic part and my main pillar in learning and teaching English. All components of English all components of learning and developing English really need vocabulary because vocabulary is a word that we use the word to sharing ideas, to speaking, to express our ideas. Uh, vocal, Vocabulary is very important to know uh, for student because they are what is short story. Short story is a genre is one of genre literature that the short story having a story in a short form, so we can read the story in one sit. And every time, everywhere, uh, every we can do it in every time, in everywhere, because practice is simple. And I have divided my talk into 4 points. There are strength that short story have strength and weakness. We must know the strategy to how to use short story to teach new vocabulary. And the last is example. I will talk to you the example word of our vocabulary, uh, to the example to teach new vocabulary in the class by short story. Next, to the strength. Strength of vocabulary, there are 7 by Aldersi 2013. The first is learners enjoy. Learners can enjoy for of the story because story having a good story. So I suggest to you to, as you the teacher, you you as the teacher can choose the good story, the unique story, the interesting story to attract the student. Or you can ask them to look for their own story. But I think effectively and efficient, you can give them a short story that you make that you make. And then the second is there is curiosity about the storyline. Why? Because if they don't read finish the story, they can have a curiosity in their mind to know more again about the story. They can read again the story. They can guess about the story, continue the story, and then yeah, I think they can guess next the storyline, and then practice their speaking and writing. Why? By reading the story, they can practice their speaking. They can read the story. They can read the story. It can practice their speaking, and then writing. They can write the summary or the conclusion of the story, or the part of the story. And then by short story we can do in every time, everywhere. uh it not it is not terbatas tuh apa sih, it's not limited by the time and place. We can do in the class, or in the home, in the park, and everywhere, every time. So the student can be creative. They can creative by the story. They can make a plot by their own mind, their own thinking. And next, the weakness. Uh, in spite of the strength, the short story have a weakness. What is it? Uh, Based on the Joseph 2015, lie in plot. Because why? Uh, the story lies in the storyline, which is often confusing when more than one story is related, and if writer comes from the same writer. It's mean any story is related to one writer that may confuse to the student can read why this story can be different. And then uh, based on the Kokoni and 2017, creating emotion and solving problem. That's mean short story to provide a just story. Uh, that means such as the story is just story, not a really fact. That the story just about story that don't how to solve the problem, and it's just build the emotion of the student. Focus more on describing an event and creating certain emotion rather than answering question and solve the problem. And then the third one is strategy. That you must as teacher, you must give the text. You After you give the text, give the time for them to read the story. After they read until until they read finish, you give the time for the understanding of the story by underline the new vocabulary for them. But remember, don't say to underline the difficult word to they to them, because it's a word difficult to them. They cannot remember after they read. But if you talk to them, underline the new vocabulary for you, and you can write down in your paper and see the meaning of your dictionary. So after you give the time to the underline the new word for them, you can give time for them uh, to seek the meaning of the word in the dictionary. After that, you can explain the meaning. You can ask them about the meaning of the word in the dictionary, explain the word in the meaning of word in the text. Two meaning in the dictionary is lexical meaning, and the meaning of the word in the text is contextual meaning. So if you give the two of meaning, uh, it's it makes them to help them understand about the word. uh, they can remember the word, they can use the word in daily life. So the next part is example. In this time I would like to tell you the example word of new vocabulary to teach in the class. The vocabulary is line. I have provide the story, the half story in the slide. You can read and also to understand uh, the story. The title of the story is Rabbit and Crocodile. I you can see the underline of the crew clue of the clue underline of is clue 1 2 3 4 until 20. So you can cross check the meaning of the dictionary about line, and you can cross check the meaning in line in the short story, having different meaning. In this storyline, it's mean uh, the crocodile having a line to get a rabbit, and but in the line in the dictionary can be it's mean in Indonesian is garis, but in line in the context it's mean in the Indonesian language is antrian. So different meaning in the dictionary and in the context. You can explain that and make it's make sure that your story your story having a vocabulary using in daily life of our daily life. So we can remember that, and the student understand and remember and use the vocabulary. So that's all of my uh, presentation. Thank you very much and see you.